Hello and welcome to The Last Mixtape. My name's Stephen White, and on this week's show, we turn our lens to why conservatives and record labels want to replace artists with AI. But first,
what seems to have happened in the race for profits, we've managed to sidestep the friction that normally comes with things being born into the world. Friction is very important. Friction gives you a little time to see what's happening. It makes something ease into your life more slowly, so you can start to correct it as it's easing in. I always say it's like we've invented an amazing new type of car that can travel at 750 miles an hour, but we haven't put any brakes in it.
not my words, but the words of Brian Eno. Why, dear listener, and indeed, dear viewer, were we just listening to the words of great minimalist composer and producer Brian Eno at the beginning of this week's show? Well, this week, I thought we'd delve into the world of AI and look at how record labels, conservatives and capitalists are trying to replace artists in the system with AI itself. And yes, I am not filming this week's episode in the usual surrounds. This week I am recording from home because I am locked out of the studio. So yeah, this is the new kind of look. It's kind of a backdrop, a painted wall, if you will, which I think is very indicative of AI and reality. This wall actually is a huge part of this week's music video. It actually says a lot. It's not actually a wall at all. You can probably tell also it's a painted canvas, which I also think says a lot about AI in a certain way. I feel like Annie Austin doing this. I really feel like, okay, yeah, let's delve into this week's show. There's a quote finding its way around the internet. AI should do tedious things for creative people and not creative things for tedious people. And I tend to agree. But look closer and you'll see a very different story. One where powerful players, record labels, tech giants and the political right are positioning AI not as a tool but as a replacement for artists themselves. That tells you a lot about where culture is heading. They say AI will democratise music, that is a tool for everyone. You don't have to play an instrument or understand chords. There's no need to express lived experience in melody or lyrics. You can bypass the pain and joy that goes into either. Just type a prompt, press play, and out comes a song. It's quick, it's seductive, it lacks humanity. From an industry standpoint, you see the cracks the moment the lawsuits start. Universal, Sony, Warner, the same old gatekeepers who wrung artists dry for decades, are suddenly throwing up legal walls, suing AI companies for copying their catalogues. Not to protect artists or their works, instead to make sure that they are the ones who own the models when the dust settles. If a record label can own the essence of an artist, their vocal timbre, their style, their idiosyncrasies, then they can re-engineer them into an endless content machine, streaming straight to the listener's ears. The music industry has always chased the same dream, total ownership. In the old days, this meant ironclad contracts and 360 deals. Now, it means something cleaner, more efficient. Replace the messy, unpredictable human with a model that never gets sick, never talks back, and never asks for royalties. That's what AI offers. Lower costs, more output, zero dissent. It's the same feudal logic dressed in 21st century branding. The lords change, the castles get taller, the drawbridges become digital. Keep the artists on the outside, hoard all the power on the inside. Record labels don't care if it's vinyl, CDs, MP3s, streaming, or machine learning. The product doesn't matter, nor does the artist. The only thing that matters is the line must always go up. Late stage capitalism is a monster, always starving, always wanting more. Techno-feudalism, a word where a handful of billionaires don't just own platforms we speak on, they seek to shape the culture that flows through them. Take Elon Musk, his AI company wants to generate movies, games, even music, pre-packaged, ready to consume. Not as a tool for artists, but as a finished product, pressing play and cashing the check, with Musk lurking in the background, overseeing everything with his own sensibilities in full play. It's Charles Foster Kane, oligarchs seeking to own both the infrastructure and the output, all at the cost of artistic diversity. Diversity also being a word these tech bro billionaires want to erase. Which brings us to politics. Authoritarian movements, which we covered here before on Fascists Can't Dance, link below, have always distrusted artists. Art is messy. Artists and their work is emotional and contains untamable, unpredictable aspects of the human condition. AI, on the other hand, is controllable. You can tune it, trim it, strip it clean. It won't march, it won't strike, it won't sing about injustice. And listen to the rhetoric. Conservative commentators rail against woke AI, complain that even the algorithms lean progressive, that the outputs talk about diversity and inclusion. What they want is so-called neutral system, one without identity, without protest, without politics. Neutral, of course, really means silent. You can see it in figures like Roddy Starbuck, who built a platform on fighting the AI, demanding apolitical culture. You can see it in extremist groups pumping out AI-generated propaganda songs, because a machine will never question the message, only deliver. And that's the real ideological payoff. AI doesn't just cut costs, it cuts out the human being, the unpredictable artist who might tell the truth. For the right, for the labels, for the billionaires. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Art through adversity is something I have always believed in. I absolutely love the stories of the making of art, the story behind the art, the person behind the art, how they make it, how they create it, what brought them to that point. And I think that is the thing that makes art so engaging. You might not see it on the canvas or in the notes or in the lyrics or how it is happening, but you feel it. You may not notice it, but your brain does. The example for me is always going to be in one of the greatest albums of all time. It's Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. All the interpersonal relationships, all the thoughts, subconscious and not conscious, all the meaning behind the lyrics, all the performative bits, all the mistakes, all of the emotional weight that's put into the music is all there in one of the greatest records of all time. And I think that's why it resonates with people. There's a story behind it, there's a story after it, and there's a story going on during it. It has all of that wrapped up in it. There's stuff we don't understand. There's stuff that's up for meaning. There's stuff that's up for interpretation. Even when you see them perform it live almost 20 years later in that kind of reunion gig, and Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham are looking at each other as they perform The Chain or Silver Springs. It has an emotion to it, has a feeling to it, stuff that you cannot teach a machine to do. This is the thing that AI art and AI music does. It bypasses all of that. It bypasses the human experience, our flaws, our emotions, our hurt. Everything is bypassed and just considered just another number in an equation. Life is far too interesting to be brought down to that. As I say, to treat that as an equation, just another number in a sum, is what takes away that emotion for us. It's why I think we do not resonate with AI art in that way, how we don't feel that it kind of connects with us because it's robbed of all of the backstory, all of the emotion, all the things that we feel, all the things that we put into it. You can't put that into it if you don't think it never went into it. You don't have to understand what Stevie Nicks or Lindsey Buckingham were thinking during the making of Rumours, but you can feel it. You may have experienced it yourself. You can feel it in the person's voice. You can approximate all that maybe with AI, but you'll never truly get it. Instead of it being a visual uncanny valley, it becomes an auditory and an emotional one that we can tell by listening. And I think that is something that we will continue to reject. But that doesn't mean that record companies and conservatives and people like that and tech bros who are not interested in the struggle behind art and see it solely as a product to be consumed, to be brought to you, the listener. That's how they think of these things. Because when you're in late stage capitalism, when you're in a boardroom, when you're a CEO and all these things, you don't think of how it makes the person feel. You think about, is the line going up? Does it sell? And for AI art, it will be very cheap to make. Not cheap on the ecosystem or what it has to do or the effect it has on climate, but cheap for them. And that's all that they care about. As I say, all those lawsuits from the record company side of things is them taking ownership or wanting to take ownership of the artist's voice, their character, their idiosyncrasy. Why is that? Well, if you look at movies and Star Wars and Disney and how they've almost, in this grotesque manner, resurrected dead actors and put them into movies. I believe in the Peter Cushing is in one of the Star Wars movies as a kind of a computerized version of himself. You know, not allowed to make that decision himself, not allowed to make the decision to be in the movie, but not allowed to express and be in the movie and say the lines that they wanted to say it. They're just kind of in it because Disney or somebody owns their likeness and says, yeah, go on, go ahead. That's an end game for a lot of record companies. If they could do that, if they could use Jimi Hendrix's likeness or Morrison's likeness or Kurt Cobain or anyone like that, Amy Winehouse, and turn them into like now new AI generated Amy Winehouse music. It sounds exactly like her, but it's not her because all of the struggle and the pain and everything else is not behind it. And she doesn't have a say. There's no agency there. It is an approximation. It is ones and zeros at a screen. It is not Amy Winehouse. But for record companies, for tech bros like that, they are not interested in the struggle and the creation of art. They are only interested in it as a line that goes up and as a product. They don't even consider that the artist struggles. If you ever see, or if you are an artist and you've ever kind of interacted with these type of people and you've made art, maybe you've made music for a film with a big film company or a record company, so like a lot of these people don't care about how you got there, how you made it. I'm thinking about how Ray in one of her award speeches was just talking about the logistics of being a songwriter and the logistics of all the things they have to do and why they should be paid for them, and they're paid for their time and paid for their effort. If you have an AI artist, you don't have to do any of that. You don't even have to give them royalties if you don't want. And if you want to put in an artist like Ray, or as I say, an Amy Winehouse or Jimi Hendrix or whoever, and tell the AI to sound like that artist, then all the better if the record company owns that likeness or that sound. These are incredibly untalented and uncurious people who only see everything as a literal product, as an end result of an equation. They think of music and art as simply that. Two things put together plus something equals something else. And they don't think of anything else about human risk or human life or the stress and the pain put into something, because they don't think that that's real. They don't think that that's worth their time. They don't think that that's worth paying for. They think that I want thing, so give me thing. I'm thinking of that quote at the beginning of saying, like, it should help artistic or creative people do creative things quicker rather than help boring people do creative things. I'm kind of mangling that there a bit. But that meaning has so much meaning to it because that is the entire part of it. It is uncreative, boring people wanting to create at a press of a button and say, I made that, I did that. And in the equation, they want to put in artists and people like that into it. An incredibly dangerous road and can be utilized in all sorts of ways. As I say, in the political sphere, it can also be a way to silence artists and silence art that you don't like by just simply swamping the system with as much AI slop as humanly possible and then just walking away and people cannot hear it. However, I do feel that, and I do believe in us as humans and our ability to reject that. I think we will constantly reject that. Even when they say, well, we did this test and people couldn't tell the difference between these two AI things and this musical thing as well. I don't think that that's actually true. And I don't think that that's something that will hold, because we'll always want that interaction with the artist. We'll always want to go live. I'm thinking of people going to see Florence Welch soon, when connection that she has, going out into the audience and holding hands and singing with people. Another thing that cannot be replicated. But it is something that they will try, and that is something we should all be worried about. Nick Cave called AI songwriting a grotesque mockery of what it is to be human. And he's right. What's missing is the life behind it, the struggle, the context, the breadth. Right now, corporations who see artists as costs, billionaires who see culture as content, politicians who dream of art without dissent, they are the ones pushing forward the dehumanization of music. The removal of artists, the removal of the messy, into a world sterilized and clean, in which they control what is said and what is done. They want AI to be the replacement, to scrub away the messy, unpredictable humanity of creation and give us something safe, an algorithm, a line of code that can be deduced and reduced down to a sum of all its parts. There is no background, there is no subtext, there is no meaning, there is no pain, no love, no anything. Just a void. All art, no matter what it is, has never been safe, nor has it been neutral. It has always had the ability to be unpredictable and untamable, something uncontrollable. That's why it matters to us so much. So the real question isn't whether or not AI is good or bad, it's whether we let it become another weapon of control, or whether we fight to keep creativity human. Because if music loses the human heartbeat at its centre, and if we accept mimicry as expression, then we're not just replacing artists, we're replacing our very selves. We are replacing what it means to be human, we are replacing an essential way of communicating with one another. How we speak to one another isn't just in conversation. It's in music, it's in art, it's in sculpture, it's in movies, it is in dance. If it can be just boiled down to a set of references, then there is no more humanity because there's no lived experience behind it. And life is far more interesting than a maths equation. And so it goes, and there it went. AI, late-stage capitalism, record companies, and conservatives. What do you think? Do you think artists are being replaced by AI? Do you think that this is a move into a almost free kind of world in which we're going to get is AI slop after AI slop after AI slop through streaming networks and things where the artist doesn't get paid and the artist gets minimalized and minimalized and minimalized till there's nothing left and it's not actually sustainable, even more so for artists to make music? What do you think? What do you think about AI art? What do you think about AI music? Do you think, as the code at the top was saying, that it was more a tool that can be wielded, or do you think that it is something that altogether should be removed? Comment down below and let me know. And as always, thank you for watching this week's show, especially in the different surroundings. Hopefully we'll be back in the studio next week to do the show. But yeah, this is kind of okay. This is kind of cool. As I say, I kind of feel like one of those more modern video essayists where they're kind of like in different places, or that guy I see sometimes who's just like interviewing people, and then like, I don't have like the small microphone thing that people have, the little tiny thing, and they put it on. I don't know if you've seen that thing where okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for watching the show, and see you next week.
With all the discussion about AI, to me, the single most important question is who should be in control of it. And we've seen in this century what happens when billionaires control new technologies, social media I'm talking about, and we've seen that you get completely unpredicted and quite disastrous results sometimes.